As a youth, I was tired of getting stuck in a quagmire that I couldn't get out of. Mastered a hand-to-hand with the 28 grams. Try to stack my ones up, cause I always had a greater plan. One foot in the dirt and the other in the sand. I walk with a bot confused, you could never understand. Seen a man fall shot with a broken bone bristle. Lives in a wheelchair cause his body's all crippled. Saturday night with no 38 special. Same Saturday night, a friend blew his vessel. Found his wife hanging from the ceiling in a vestibule. I met a bird who was a mule, who stashed work in her ass and didn't care about the stool. The streets are cold, lawless with no rules, but the kids are proud to be outside, they got something to prove. Spitting pain on the mic with the blunt ashes in the booth. So I'm gonna talk about why I like to talk on the camera, or at least when I think about crypto, I analyze the missteps of what I've done, and I analyze the missteps, the mistakes that people do in the crypto space. Okay? I think it stems from a place where, like I said before, crypto affords the opportunity to uplift the have-nots. Crypto affords the opportunity to uplift poor people. And the reason why that falls dear to me is because I've been poor. Right? And I've, come up, grew up harsh, rough times, rough neighborhood, rough circumstances. Had to face a great deal of obstacles like many of us have. You grow up, you have no guidance, like useful guidance, to really help you understand the larger world. It's more than just about being told, about having dreams and cultivating your imagination, and it's about receiving, and this is beyond academics. Like, finish school, get a job, and it's beyond academics. Life skills. I learned a lot growing up, but I learned a lot from experience, through pain, through hardship, through suffering, through loss. The list goes on. And it was through those types of experiences, that helped me pull through. And I didn't do this on my own. I did this with the help of course, my family, friends that I grew up with. And when I say these things, I'm not saying that everything was all good with family and with friends. I'm going to highlight the negative aspects of my interactions with family, friends, and everyone else. that caused me to be traumatized over repeatedly. Those experiences and those instances perhaps toughened me up. They toughened me up for this beautiful world that could be just as cold, just as harsh. You know, in school, I never learned about money. You know how I learned about money? Outside of school, in the home, on the street, outside of school. I learned about how it works. I learned about how people can take everything away from you for the sake of money. I learned about how human psychology is so fragile. It's so fragile, and this is beyond physical abuse. The human psychology is so fragile that one word that you hear as a child will stay with you for as long as you live. The power of words. You know, as a child in the United States, growing up, kids tease each other. And they say sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never harm me. That is one of the craziest lies I've ever heard in retrospect, because words sometimes inflict more damage than physical harm. Like I said, there are words that we hear as children that stay with us for as long as we're alive. Okay? Fighting the odds, overcoming insurmountable odds. I remember when I reached the age of 21, that was a big deal. That was a big deal because I knew people, family and friends who didn't reach that age. It wasn't because I was quote unquote legal. I can go to a bar and have a drink or, buy alcohol and whatever. It was a personal rite of passage. Just being a black man in America. Our experiences from childhood affect how we interact with others today. Our consciousness, our subconsciousness, from all of the experiences that we picked up in life, contribute to the makeup of who we are today. I had a father who did not play games. He did not play games. And I used to say to myself as a young person, some of the things that my father did, I would never do growing up. And guess what happened? As I became a
young man and young adult, I started to display the same behaviors that I faulted my father for. I started to display the same behaviors that my neighborhood, my upbringing, the negative aspects of my upbringing affected, how it affected me. And I started to display those same behaviors as a young adult, which allowed me to incur so many losses that if I think about them too long, it wouldn't be a good thing. A lot of people I've met, I wanted to be sort of like, when it's not good to be alone, right? So as a child, you always want to feel like you're a part of something. You always want to feel included. And so you do things to be accepted. And sometimes those things are not good. And some of the answers that you're looking for, you can't find in the home. So what are you left with? To seek answers to questions outside of the home and whatever outside means to you. And those answers some of them were answered, but in ugly, horrifying ways that affected my overall makeup, that affected the way I think, that affected my dealings in life with just as a person. I don't blame my parents for that. And this is not a slight against them. They did their best with what they had. And I had to, at some point, wake up and not on my own, experience had to force me to wake up. Experience taught me too many different types of lessons. And ultimately, my body just became so exhausted and tired of reliving painful suffering over and over and over again, where I just became tired and I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to just say, you know what, enough is enough. Not many people have reached that point. And I realized that. And I've met those people who haven't reached that point and erased themselves. It's through all of these things that actually, when you ask these questions and how mysterious life is, you say, I would say, why are these things happening? If there's a God, if there's a creator, why are so many things are happening like this? Why are all these bad things happening? What have I done to deserve all of these things? I'm here, but many people I came up with aren't here. So that means I have to switch up my outfit, my mental and spiritual and psychological, emotional outfit. I had to just change it up because what I was wearing didn't fit anymore. I outgrew them. The societal norms became conflicted. What I mean by that is some of the expectations that were placed upon me by way of society, paying your taxes, being a good model citizen. The other aspects I had issues with internally. I don't have issues with paying taxes and being a good citizen, quote unquote. But coming up, when you're rebellious, when you become sort of like radical in your teenage years, and then that sort of like grows into your young adult years, it just lends to a certain level of a series of misunderstandings, a series of unfortunate and bad experiences. Close calls. So many close calls I've missed. That was a close call. That was a close call. There's so many close calls I've missed. Because it's a continuous type of struggle to move forward in life on your journey, to exist purposefully, not just listlessly, but to exist with a purpose. I try to enact the purpose from others while still trying to internally find my own purpose. And that caused so much disarray. Mastered the art of hurt, because that was my training. You teach an animal how to do certain things. You train them. After a while, they become proficient in whatever it is that you're training them, in whatever it is that they're absorbing, that they're ingesting, digesting, taking in. After a while, the scale started to tilt too far off, where I just had to hold up and say, you know what, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Because I still have to do certain things. This is why I'm here, I guess. Whoever's pulling the string, the creator, must got something for me to do. Must have a job for me, or for us. And I look at crypto. With a certain lens, and I see crypto as an opportunity. I see crypto as a chance, and in some cases I see it as a last opportunity for so many who have lost hope, who've settled for less because they feel like they have nothing else to aim for. I see crypto as an opportunity to help people thrive, to improve one's life, to share with their loved ones, to level the playing field, to minimize the pain, to minimize the hurt, to minimize the suffering, to minimize the reality of being a slave. So many of us are used to feeling inferior. Many won't admit it though, but why do you think that oftentimes when you hear about people who are incredibly violent and aggressive, You really take a look at their history and their upbringing, and they were victims of all levels of abuse. And they've had to endure so much to the point where they've become the predator to prevent the same traumatic occurrences that they've suffered as children, to prevent it from happening to them as an adult. The problem is they exhibit those same behaviors onto others. I talk about cryptocurrency because crypto can add a certain level of relief, can complement whatever it is you have going on if you know what you're doing, if and when you understand what the technology is and the opportunity it provides and can provide and will provide to minimize the pain, to minimize the suffering, to minimize the hurt. Because life, although is beautiful, life is very messy. How many times we hear people who laughed a lot, who laugh so much, is because they rather laugh than cry. They're hiding. How many comedians do we know who entertain thousands of people across the world in crowds, who are so withdrawn and are actually timid, withdrawn, suffer in silence, at sometimes to their own detriment? We all have a story. We all have a story. We all are walking libraries within our own right of experiences, our own personal perspectives, points of view. I think this is why sometimes I really go hard at these crypto people who just seem like they operate from an incredibly selfish point of view, is because there's a lot of hurt people out here who continue to hurt others. There's a lot of people who are suffering out here who no longer want to suffer, or who are trying to improve their quality of life, who are looking for a way out. Who are seemingly dedicated to strive for better. To strive for better. Who will put the work in and do whatever it takes to sacrifice everything to lessen the suffering. Sometimes this social media stuff is make-believe. It's all an illusion. It's not real. The messages are not really real. As real as it can be. It's just on the surface. But then when you really prod and dig deeper, just dig a little deeper, you get to the core. When you get to the core, you find your truth. You know, And the reason why I say, social media is just, it's not true, is based on nonsense sometimes, because oftentimes you can, excuse me, display images or message or whatever, and it's not necessarily indicative of what you really have going on in life. You put a post up, you're in the middle of wherever, Himalayan mountains or somewhere in Tahiti, basking in the glorious ocean waters, the Pacific Ocean, or you would like to, and pretend you're pretending to be living a certain quality of life when you're not, and we want to seek some type of relief or distraction to take us away from what's going on in real life, away from the problems, away from the conflicts, away from the everyday drama. I I fear for people who will miss out in crypto. I feel like crypto is the last hope, and whatever that's worth. I feel like crypto is the last chance. It's the last chance for people who have nothing to have something, and not just something, but something that could potentially be, life changing. Who knows? But even today, there's so much going on in this space when you're talking about a space that's filled with opportunities for people to be self-sufficient, to become entrepreneurs, to live with a certain level of freedom and really enjoy the life they deserve. And they will miss out. Which talks about responsibility and accountability, but sometimes I feel like, who cares? People don't care, right? Because it's just about you, me, myself, and I. The self-centeredness, the greed, it's just all about me and forget everybody else. Is it because you grew up abjected, you grew up isolated, you grew up violated, where you saw no self-worth, your image was just so low? That you can't even fathom thinking about the well-being of others, that exists. That exists. And words are powerful. Words are powerful. That's why in my mind, I try to live by thinking before I speak, right? To help the one person out there who may feel like they're alone know that they're not alone. They're not alone in feeling alone. that there's something that's going on right now that's part of the fourth industrial revolution. There's something that's unfolding right now as we speak that's part of the fourth industrial revolution that is just groundbreaking. It's so unreal that people will shun themselves away from it, sadly. But then, who am I to call out scammers, right? Who am I to criticize or critique the crypto culture vultures, which is not just for individuals. You have institutions that are collecting everything they can away from the people. They're trying to collect everything they can to have as much power or control over the people, man. To continue to make people believe that they are inferior, that they are the institutions and the powers that be will always be superior, thereby continuing the cycle of pain, of trauma, of suffering, of misery, of poverty. Destitution, deprivation, the list goes on. So that our bloodstream and our DNA could be riddled with that reality, taking a chance away from us to have a say, taking the chance away from us to help others have a say, taking a chance away from us to be free. Like we don't matter. Because the big bad culture vulture, the big bad bully, wants to have it all and for everybody to have nothing. One member of the Rothschild said, as long as he controls the money, he doesn't care what any government does. What a life.